Welcome to the Digital Manufacturer Podcast, your frontline source for all things digital transformation in manufacturing. I'm your host, Mark Flynn, and I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of manufacturing. In each episode, we'll uncover the stories of innovation that are defining the industry, offering insights and strategies that help to drive growth and efficiency. Join us as we speak to thought leaders and visionaries who share their journeys and the lessons they've learned along the way. So let's dive into today's episode and discover what the future holds for the digital manufacturer. Hello everyone. Today we are excited to have Emin Ogur with us, an IoT architect at Digital Catapult in London. Emin has been at the forefront of integrating advanced technologies into the manufacturing sector and helping businesses to leverage IoT to enhance their operations and security. His insights and expertise will help us shape how we think about connectivity and cybersecurity in the factories of tomorrow. Emin, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for having me. It's a good pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Emin, I wanted to kick off with, what is an IoT architect? Who are Digital Catapult? And how did you find yourself there?
So IoT is a very wide domain that deals with a lot of stack of technologies. An IoT architect ultimately is someone who designs end-to-end solutions that deals with sensors, with edge computing, protocols, connectivity, and at that application level as well, connecting multiple technologies together. With the growth of cloud technologies, especially, this domain has expanded very rapidly, and there are a lot of things to consider in the cloud space as well. But from a manufacturer's perspective, it is also tailoring the details of the traditional manufacturing into a technology where you are taking legacy systems, if not newly built, into consideration to connect a world together, really. And that Digital Catapult is the digital authority in the UK for accelerating the adoption of advanced digital technologies in the UK's industrial sector, as well as some other sectors as well. We work with SMEs, with vendors, with hyperscalers, large organizations, small organizations, to accelerate this adoption so that UK is advanced and in a more advantageous position in the world stage.
And how did you find yourself at Digital Catapult? What's your background?
So I started my first private sector job, let's say, was in IoT space. I started at one of the very early startups in IoT domain, and that was based in Spain. And we were working remotely with a small team. And then I worked at a global company where we were supporting the EMEA sales teams to design and to rapidly adopt IoT solutions throughout EMEA, helping the partners, the vendors that we were working with. And then I came across Digital Catapult, which I had known for some years, actually. I knew that there would be a very dynamic environment at Digital Catapult, working with various technologies and across sector. And I was interested, and then I was basically lured towards Digital Catapult, and I found myself there.
Brilliant. So Digital Catapult is the UK authority for digital technologies, and IoT is the Internet of Things. So what should SMEs be thinking about when it comes to IoT? Like, is it something that they should be considering investing in, or is IoT only for large-scale manufacturers?
I think IoT provides an opportunity for smaller companies, smaller manufacturers, to actually take a step ahead in the advantages of technologies should they invest in IoT space. So when we look back in the history of manufacturing, it has not been possible to avoid technology and actually continue business. So we've started from Industrial Revolution and it's rolled out to Industry 2, 3, and 4. We are moving towards Industry 4, where we desire a more connected world. So stepping to the next level in the industrial maturity has always been advantageous for any business size. So for SMEs, this provides a new window, a new opportunity to even come to a more advantageous stage actually compared to large organizations should they adopt this technology domain. The question to whether they should invest, I think, is definitely yes. And it's a question of whether you would like to continue to work efficiently in the next stage of industrial maturity. Today, everything is around data, and investing in IoT is investing to capture your data and to process it, whether in the real time or processed later on. And IoT basically enables the companies to have that rich resource, which is data in this case, to process and gather information that will aid for the business to work more efficiently, more productively, and even to open new business avenues for SMEs or for large organizations.
Brilliant. So IoT, from your perspective, is something that can level the playing field for SME manufacturers in terms of increasing their competitiveness against some larger manufacturers. Hence, it's something that they should be giving serious consideration to investing in. And I suppose the investment is really in enabling manufacturers to capture their data in a higher quality, more real time, so that they can, I guess, exploit that for business benefit. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And as I said, it would provide new business avenues such as servitization that we have been discussing lately as well. So that brings in, instead of selling one-off products, you could servitize the product. So that brings a subscription-based model to your business, not only for products, but also even for the plants for manufacturing. We had contributed to some reports and some research that brings in an idea of servitizing the manufacturing plant to produce products for other smaller companies and smaller business who has an idea and wants to produce a product and hire your subscribe to your manufacturing plant, get that done, and then put it out on the market. So it opens the connectivity, the IoT opens a new avenues for the businesses, and hence it brings new advantages to the business.
It's a really interesting topic. I mean, I was talking to someone just this week about this concept of pop-up products or pop-up manufacturers that rent capacity from existing manufacturing plants to deliver a short run of a specific product or a bespoke product, or even if they're an early stage startup and wanting to only run a few units, that they can rent out manufacturing space and have that manufacturer deliver on their contract, which puts a whole new angle to contract pack and contract manufacturing. So play that out for me. How would IoT enable that to be something more mainstream? Because I suppose for many manufacturers out there, being able to optimize your capacity of your factory is a huge advantage. And if you aren't getting the sales from your existing product to do that, renting out space to another manufacturer or another product owner would be a great benefit.
Subscribing to a product or to a service requires utilization of some SLA, some service layer agreements. And to utilize that in a precise way, you need to connect your assets or your whole plant from your energy consumption to the status of the machinery and of the working condition of the machinery. For example, one of the parameters that could be utilized by the manufacturer to initially provide an estimate price and then add according to the production process is to understand the energy consumption. So if you know how much electricity is consumed for certain product or products, then you can price accordingly. You can also calculate the carbon footprint of each product that is assembled on the line or produced. That is another factor that could be used in the pricing model, or going ahead, actually beneficial for the world. Those kind of information could be provided with third parties, shall we see any obligation to do so from that angle, and also for the maintenance and availability of the manufacturing plant. So if the customer is ordering some product, subscribing the plant, and suddenly the factory plant becomes unavailable due to some reason, it is the right of the customer to know that in advance so that they can plan accordingly, instead of waiting for manual emails, which may not be done automatically. So even to do that, you need an automation. But it's that visibility, that connectivity that establishes a more trustful and more awareness between the manufacturer and the customer. Those kind of scenarios could play well with IoT.
I get it now. So I suppose IoT is about getting that kind of granular level of control over your manufacturing environment, or at least an understanding of it, so that you could pay price accordingly, because running one product could consume very different overheads, electricity, water, heat, whatever it might be, than another product. So by having a granular level of detail on that, you can price accordingly. But also by having access to that level of information, you can see exactly where you could fit in additional, production runs based on capacity.
Absolutely. These are some of the examples. I mean, we started with servitization model, but IoT opens a whole load of window from a production efficiency, such as visual inspections, together with AI, with the power of AI, from that to energy efficiency utilization of assets on the shop floor, to worker safety. There's a wide range of areas of domains where IoT could be utilized, and it could optimize the operations drastically. We have seen in some sectors that you have a product that is worth maybe under £1, but could cause a recall of products in combination of millions of pounds. Recalling those could cost that much. And of course, that transportation, that carbon footprint, all wasted, which could be prevented through utilization of inspection systems by combining with AI and other technologies.
Brilliant. So increasing visibility, increasing control, both of which allow you to increase efficiency, mitigate risk. What does a manufacturer listening to this podcast today, how do they start step one of their IoT journey? I mean, it sounds brilliant, but I suppose in the back of my mind, it sounds complex. It seems costly. Is that the right opinion to make, or is it a little bit easier than I'm perceiving?
That's a really good question. I think there are step zeros. I always refer to step zeros when I give a step-by-step guide. So step zeros is to actually understand what you are stepping into. For a manufacturer perspective, we're talking about here, of course. So understand what you're stepping into. Also, why do you need IoT? And understanding that means you need to understand how you are going to use the information, the data from your manufacturing plant to optimize your processes. This is step one, and hopefully you understand this. And many don't do, unfortunately. And to open a parenthesis here, so many companies, when AI became a hype, they said, we want an AI. They're running to AI. And after a number of months, they realized that the project is failing because there's no data available for that. So that's why there is step zero. So before you go to step one, there is step zero to plan, to understand what you are doing and how you are going to do it. So step one is realizing what infrastructure you have. So are you in the level of industry 3? Hopefully. Are you at the level of industry 2? Hopefully not lower.
What industry 2 and industry 3 are?
At industry 3, we have the HMIs, we have the dials, where we have more visible, more of human machine interaction type of activity. And before that, there's more manual tasks, more of the things are not visible. The machines are just working there with someone putting something on the pallet, etc., etc. So there is some level of automation, but there's a lot of manual tasks. And with the transition industry 3, we have moved on to a new stage. And then in the industry 4 level, we are looking to create more intelligence and more connected and more automated factory environments where the robots are walking around and doing stuff, not necessarily having robots, but that's a level of maturity as well. But more intelligence means more connected. So step one is, again, being aware of your infrastructure, what you have, and how you can actually achieve those goals that you thought in step zero. And then understanding that, you have to bring in relative approach and relative technologies to collect data from your plant and then do the rest. So just to say, if you have a milling machine, you're doing manual tasks. If you want to automate that and capture data from there, just for argument's sake, I'm giving that example, then you probably have to automate that machine first. Like I've seen some examples where a PLC is utilized by a milling machine, and there is an arm, there are some mechanics that brings the lever down, up, and the PLC, programmable control logic, is controlling those levels. So it controls the whole logic. So now you have something that actually produces data for you. So you can actually plug into that PLC and capture that data and understand that process. So there are steps, and then there are considerations whether you want to have all the utilization, all the intelligence, all the data processing on-prem. Do you want to utilize cloud, private or public cloud? So there are levels of that maturity as well.
Just to recap there, what you said, level 0, before you even think about deploying technology, you should have a robust plan for how you're going to use it and how you're going to deliver it. And a big theme in this podcast to date has been around making sure that you have a good understanding of your data and the structure of your data before deploying technology. Because if you don't, you're just, it's akin to fueling a race car with just bad fuel. You're never going to get the performance out of it that you want to if you're not taking care of the fuel. So definitely get that. And then second stage, or level 1 as you called it, is about having an appreciation of the infrastructure that you have deployed to date and whether you need to make any changes there. So in particular, I guess you want to have tools that are on the shop floor collecting data so that you can then read off that. So a PLC being a perfect example of a controller that controls a machine and captures data, or even it could be, I'm guessing, just a sensor at the end of the line that's counting units coming off and the speed and rate that they're coming off at. The other thing that you did say I wanted to pick up on is on-prem versus cloud. So a lot of our customers that we deal with that are SME manufacturers all have on-prem ERPs or on-prem MESs. manufacturing execution systems. And there seems to be this tendency in the manufacturers that we've experienced to want to stay deployed and keep it on site. But with that comes a kind of limited ability to integrate with all the brilliant tools that are out there in the ecosystem. What's your opinion on the debate between in the cloud or on-prem?
I think it is fine to have on-prem, but you have to know the consequences, that the upfront cost, the capex that you have to invest in order to have the on-prem efficient hardware to process that. In some cases, this is not so expensive, but in many cases, you do have to invest a large sum into the hardware and the components. Where on the other side, the cloud provides a subscription-based model. So you are consuming as much as you utilize it. And it provides a more flexible way to connect to a world of services and technologies. So, for example, if you are planning to utilize AI, then you need to invest in a powerful compute on-prem if you were to do it on-prem. And that's a high cost. Whereas you can hire some compute resource in the cloud and process that. And then you can actually still move that model that you built in the cloud to on-prem as well with lower compute resources. So it's not this or that. You could also have a hybrid approach as well, where you do a lot of batch processing on the edge or on-prem, and then you do some of the processing that is necessary, or some of the integration rather, in the cloud stage. So if you have two factories that you process valuable data on-prem to some degree, and you want to merge the data and get, let's say, an aggregate value, then you can send that in the cloud and actually process that there. And cloud, I have to say, does provide a lot of flexibility, if I should reiterate that, because on each hyperscaler's cloud platform, for example, there is probably, last time I checked, it was 140 plus, and then I stopped checking. There's maybe even close to 200 services that you could utilize, pick them up off the shelf and utilize for your own need, be it machine learning, be it data analysis, be it storage. Some of the services are quite cheap to consume, some relatively expensive. And to reference your complexity, it is complex. These things that we talked about are complex, which I will come back to again. Even at the cloud stage, it's not only the knowledge of which services I need, how do I tailor together, how do I configure. It's also how do I keep my price down? Is it that service or this service? It's cheaper, but does it work with my use case? There are use cases such as high throughput data where you need specialist services, and there's batch processing, for example, where you have to choose another option. So there are loads of things to consider. And because of these complexities, there are a lot of companies, SMEs, larger companies are emerging that actually have solutions for this. So you have a cloud solution, and then you have a service that actually optimizes the cloud cost for you, for example. But that cost thing has been a known issue in the community, and it's been discussed and debated a lot. And to be honest, I have to say that Hyperscale is quite open on this as well. They do have some documentation on how you could optimize your costs in the cloud as well. So hibernation modes, sleep modes, serverless computes, which sometimes are advantageous, sometimes are not. But yeah, it is again to know and to decide how you want to approach upfront cost versus subscription-based and flexibility, etc.
Yeah. And to your point, though, if you're not au fait or if you don't know how to configure and optimize a cloud environment, there are businesses that will abstract that from you, give you the same level of functionality that you need, but on a subscription price, and kind of abstract that whole configuration and management responsibility from you. Where do you sit in terms of security? Is the cloud more secure than deployed or vice versa? Or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, security is a hot topic, especially in IoT world, because at very high level, IoT means connecting things to things. And to connect things to another thing, you're opening a door, a communication door. And when you open a door, that means someone can get through, whether authorized or not authorized. So for that reason, it's a hot topic. And there has been so many attacks and so many news out and about on how an IoT solution or IoT device had been hacked because of X problem. Now, when you come to on-prem or cloud, I think cloud has improved very well in utilizing security measures. There are ways to cure in a way that is very, very, very hard to break. I have been giving an example that I have learned working with some global hyperscalers and vendors. So there is a game console which utilizes security certificates as a mechanism of device ID and security credentials. And ever since it has utilized that, it has not been hacked at the time when I learned about this, basically. And the mechanism was that it would rotate the security certificates daily. So then you not only a very secure way, but you're refreshing those credentials daily, and it's a very high security level. So between the on-prem, the edge, and the cloud, there are methods, there are security technologies that could be utilized to actually make it a very robust connection. But you have to know that you need that. Again, that awareness. So in IoT, it's not like you're buying a printer, you're connecting it, it's plug and play. This is the maturity level we want to have in IoT. But in IoT, in many cases, you get a sensor and you get a gateway, and then you connect the sensor to the gateway. There is a link there, sometimes wireless. And then from gateway to the cloud, from the computer to the cloud, there's another door that you open. You have to know how to put some measures, how to put some guards on those doors so that it's not compromised. Again, to reference the printer, it's not plug and play yet. We don't have that maturity in the market yet, although there are some very odd examples. It's knowing that you're opening those doors with a set of stack of technologies. And because you open those doors yourself, you have to secure those doors as well. So on-prem, would it be more secure? I wouldn't say more secure, but it would be secure, of course. So you also have to consider when you say security, there's a privacy element there as well. So on-prem can be hacked, in the cloud can be hacked. I think a key thing to remember is it's not that you won't be hacked, because we know that so many robust systems are hacked. It is to have a plan how to mitigate that. We have seen in the industry, even in vehicles, a manufacturer's car system was hacked, but they had a mechanism with the press of a button to deploy a patch to those vehicles, and that was overcome that way. So you got to have a strategy, a plan to overcome those kind of issues.
Absolutely. And I think for many, particularly SME manufacturers, my opinion is cloud is more secure from the pure standpoint that it's the likelihood of the cloud system being patched and maintained and secured in a proper way by a professional is probably going to be higher than deployed, because most manufacturers wouldn't be able to afford having a IT team on site there to maintain that security. That's a really good point. So just coming back to the levels, I mean, so level 0, plan it. Level 1, get your infrastructure in place. Is there any further levels, or is that us IoT Industry 4.0 ready? What do we do next after level 1?
So you have your understanding of your infrastructure, and then you utilize the sensors, the data collectors, let's say, or it's a matter of how you would give your assets tongue to speak for itself. Did you have an asset that was constantly breaking and you had to bring someone to fix it for history? Use your observations. If that happened, that is actually a valuable knowledge. So you know that, okay, let's put a vibration sensor there. Or did the technician who came in, did he say, or did she say, this has been breaking because of a high temperature there? So, okay, now you know that temperature is an issue. So place a temperature sensor there and start sensing. And when it comes to a certain level, that then you know you need to intervene in some way. So that historical knowledge, manual knowledge, I call it, is valuable. If you don't have that, you have to know that you are going to put sensors in place to actually sense and create a history of data for you in order to extract that knowledge. So it's between, and then once you have those data available or that knowledge available, then you process it. So how do you process? Do you just have a dashboard that shows you a trending line? This is quite useful, okay, to understand, to visualize, because I always see, if you see, you know, okay, if you don't see, you don't know. And these are machines, they can't speak. So you have to give them the tongues to speak for itself. And how it speaks for itself is those lines that you see. And beyond the lines, so for a while, what was trending was data analysis. And the data analysis was understood those lines on graphs and how you could actually correlate them. Maybe even putting some rules in place. If vibration is this, do this. So the AI became even a more popular hype. And then we understood that, okay, actually, you can process this historical data to have a more tailored intelligence for your own plant. So it is not a matter of just visualizing that data, but actually utilizing the modern technologies, AI, to have a next level of intelligence. And again, so you have that, you process that, you know the outcome of an intelligence. So what do you do with that now? Is it, again, feeding back into that dashboard that you were seeing? Or taking another step, which is integrating into your business processes and making sure the decision makers in the company actually see that and they use it as a decision mechanism. I think a critical point of making IoT a success, and even AI as well, is whether you are feeding that information back into the business and using that to optimize the business. At the machinery level, at the asset level, you can integrate and optimize the processes, but there are things that are beyond that. There's a process. As it to your business BIS, business information system, add it to your even procurement, your ordering system, your ERPs. You capture the data, you process, you create intelligence. Now feed that intelligence back into your business is, I think, the path of maturity to go.
Very good. So IoT at its core is about setting up the data capture elements throughout your manufacturing business, or throughout any business, I should say, but this podcast is specific for manufacturers, so that you can then consolidate all that data into one central repository that you can then run analytics or correlations on to derive business intelligence, which can then be fed back into how you run your business, and the continuous improvement loop starts again. That's brilliant. What would you say are the top three benefits to a manufacturing business from embarking on an IoT journey?
So the top three could be that it will absolutely optimize the business processes and hence allow the manufacturers to work in a more efficient way and hence make more profit, either creating new ways of making profit or reducing the cost in the production line. So that's one benefit that we have already seen in the market. that already happens. The second benefit is it could open new business avenues, as we discussed earlier. So it could take a manufacturer beyond what they have been traditionally doing, whether that's through utilizing the plant for a subscription-based model or for even servitizing the products that they have created. And the third one could be that being ready, I don't want to say for tomorrow, but for today, actually. IoT could provide that infrastructure to be ready today, that the whole world is actually looking to be connected. And because the humanity had a technology leap with the internet, with the AI, and now they want another one that everything is controllable, we have more intelligence in place. So having those infrastructures available will provide that platform for that leap. And that also requires adhering to the legislations, to the new laws, because if everybody start opening doors, it could be a critical need to secure those infrastructure in the country. So not only having that platform for the leap, but also adhering to the standards that would be required to create a secure tomorrow.
And what about the opposite? What are the 3 pitfalls that folks should be aware of when it comes to implementing an IoT program? What are the 3 things that you'd advise trying to avoid?
I could advise that they should avoid those solutions that would take them to a black box and prevent openness. So openness from the technologies. Adhere open technologies, basically. It doesn't have to be open source, but open enough to be connectable to other stuff. And one of the difficulties is finding a way to connect one thing to another. That's one. The other one is have a security in mind when you are adopting IoT solutions. Again, you are not getting off the shelf stuff. A manufacturer is responsible for sensor and another manufacturer responsible for the gateway. But when you're connecting two, then you are owning the responsibility between those two. So you got to know your role and the complexities you're dealing with. Another one could be when you have a strategy to utilize IoT is you don't have to invest in hundreds of sensors and gateways, and you don't have to deploy everywhere at once. Have some pilots that actually works at the level that I explained, to the level that it feeds back into the business processes. So when you have a pilot, don't just have a dashboard that sits locally and it's seen by someone local, which says, oh, good, it works, and it leaves that. If you do that, it might fail, and many projects fail at this phase. So unless it is fed into the business, the value is seen daily, then the project could fail drastically.
Brilliant. Emin, thanks very much for your time. Really insightful conversation about IoT, how to go about deploying and achieving that Industry 4.0 North Star, and also what are the pitfalls that you need to watch out for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mark. I really enjoyed the show. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into The Digital Manufacturer. We hope that today's conversation has provided some food for thought or sparked new ideas that will help you on your digital journey. To learn more about any of these topics discussed in the episode, head over to our website www.rubiktech.co. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform to help others join in the digital manufacturing movement. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a future episode. The Digital Manufacturer is brought to you by Rubik, where we're not just talking about the future, we're making it happen. On behalf of everyone at Rubik, thank you for listening.